Let's do a little work with undo so you can get a feel for how it works. We're not going to touch flashback here. We're going to do that in a separate course, so keep checking the Pluralsight library for Oracle 12c content, and you'll find my courses. Here we're on my Oracle 12c server. Again, I'm using that Power CMD tool. I'm not getting paid by the company, so don't think that I'm just giving you suggestions off the top of my head. Remember, I don't do that. Of course, you Linux, Unix people are saying, well, in a terminal session, I can easily spawn additional tabs, and that's true, but can you display them side by side like this? Maybe you can. Anyway, on the right, you see I've connected into my database called PlugDB as a user named Amy. She has enough privilege to be able to select from other schemas. Scott is one of the example schemas that you can install, so she's run select star from scott.dept. And it comes back with 4 rows. Let me make a connection on the left-hand pane, and I'll run the same query here. And of course, I see those same 4 rows. Now the question comes in, what if I do something like this? Update scott.dept, set loc equal to Nashville, where, and by the way, I didn't explicitly mention this, and frankly, you should know this by now, but SQL statements are not case sensitive. Yes, operating systems are, in particular Linux, but the structured query language itself is not case sensitive, at least as far as the keyword commands are concerned. So notice that in this example, update, set, and where are all lowercase. It doesn't matter whether I do upper or lower. The only reason I use upper habitually when I'm in SQL Developer is to make it easier for you to see or separate the keywords. Where dept no equals, I'll make this 20. Tells me that the row is updated, so now if I use my up arrow a few times to get back to that select statement, I can see that change in my session. Now let me come over to Amy's session and I'll rerun the query. And notice that I'm seeing the before data for the department number 20. It isn't going to be until I issue the commit statement that this change gets actually recorded, commit complete. And now let me come over to Amy's session and run the query again, and now I see it. Now on the other hand, let me again make use of my previous statements. I'll say set loc to Syracuse, where dept no 30. Cool. Now again, we know that if we run the same query on Amy's side, she's not going to see that change yet. If I do a select in my session, I can in fact see that change. Now I want to be careful if I've decided that I don't want to keep that change. I don't want to just disconnect, use the disconnect statement, or even play dangerous games with the close button up here, because Oracle wants to commit the data, and by want, you know, as an instructor, I'm personifying. You can ding me for that if you want. But really, Oracle is configured for the ACID model, so it really, quote-unquote, wants to commit and will use any excuse to do so, okay? So it's imperative if I'm a user to use rollback wherever possible if I know that I want to dump my changes. And just for grins, I'll come back over to Amy's session and I'll run that. Okay, good deal. So back in the system session, let me do a host CLS, and I'll do a show parameter undo. And you can see there are 4 initialization parameters that deal with undo space. We have the undo table space value that actually identifies which table space is your undo one. Undo management, auto, means that Oracle is managing the operations of undo, all aspects of it. You can optionally enable a temp undo. If you want to do undo for temp data, that is set for false by default, because when you think about it, temp is just scratch data. Do you really want to incur the additional overhead to provide undo for temp? That's up to you. And then, like I said, the major one is the undo retention time. That's given in seconds, and 900 is the default value. You know that you'd use alter session set to make those changes. If we go directly into DB Express, by the way, if you're using container and pluggable databases, this is a key difference. If you log into DB Express at the pluggable database level, there's no undo table space here. It's actually stored in the root. So in the storage node, you get a table spaces entry where we can look here. And we're seeing everything but. We're seeing table spaces in the pluggable. But if we go to the DB Express instance for the root, the container database itself, there, under storage, you have undo management, which is the page we're looking at right now. And we can see all the important metadata given in user-friendly way. Undo management auto. If we want to change the retention interval from 900 seconds, we can just click it, and it takes you immediately to the appropriate initialization parameter. That's pretty handy, isn't it? This Flash interface is pretty cool. The Undo Advisor is part of the Automatic Workload Repository, or AWR, over here on the right. Let me scroll over. And if you're a graph person, you can really have a good time in Enterprise Manager by understanding it's showing a target right here. And so over time, depending upon what your desired undo retention time is, it's going to give you suggestions on how you should size the table space. And if you're doing automatic undo table space management, there's really not too many variables that you need to worry about yourself. So again, it gives us all our metadata and some nice charts and graphs. I haven't shown you Oracle Enterprise Manager Cloud Control yet. I've talked about it a little, but never formally introduced you. Let me introduce you now to the Cloud Control tool. At first blush, you might think, well, this looks like Database Express. Kind of. Uses a similar graphical interface and also requires Flash, but there is so much more to Cloud Control. I'm going to show you how to install and set up Cloud Control in the next series that I'm doing for Pluralsight, as a matter of fact, on Oracle Database 12c installation and configuration and upgrade. But at any rate, suffice it to say, you can manage multiple databases in one console. And this is actually an Oracle 11G database, and that's okay. The stuff I'm going to show you here is the same regardless of version. And again, there's almost too much to look at it. It's pretty crazy in Cloud Control, and you're paying for these extra bells and whistles, of course. Under Administration, we can go to Storage, and then under Storage we have what's called the Segment Advisor, and then there's a node for Automatic Undo Management, which gives you a lot of the same options I showed you with DB Express, but here it goes beyond, and you're paying for analysis and suggestions. You see down here under the Undo Advisor, it actually proactively looks for problems and space allocation issues and makes recommendations on what you can do, and will actually run the jobs for you. It's pretty awesome.